Hello, this is Cole from West Coast Drum Shop, and I am sitting behind a Sonor Greb signature snare. Now, this is the recently updated model, and what I want to do is give you a little bit of information about this drum specifically, then also give you some sound samples, and I also have the first generation Greb signature snare here, so I want to do a comparison between the two, and then just give you some of my personal impressions playing the drum. Now, I won't go too heavy into specs because there's a great video of Benny himself explaining everything about the snare, but I'll just give you the most important details. So there are two versions now. There is a brass and a beech version of this drum. This is the brass one here. Both of them are the same dimensions as the first generation snare, which is 5.75 by 13, which is a bit of an unusual size, but that's part of what makes this a unique signature snare. To my eye, there are two features specifically that make this snare different from the first generation, and the biggest and most obvious one is probably these two little lever button things on the front, and these control the internal dampeners. Not one, but two internal dampeners. They call this the monorail dampener system, and it's pretty cool. You have two different types of dampeners. You've got the classic hard felt little disc for light dampening, and then on the other side you have a big fluffy thing for more heavy dampening. And you can use either or you could use both of them at the same time depending on what you're going for. This is, as far as I know, the first drum I've ever heard of with dual dampening systems. So already that is unique in and of itself. And then the other interesting new feature, which is not completely new or unique to this drum, is this throw-off system, which they are calling the dual glide strainer. And the two big features here are that you have tensioning on both sides, which snares have done in the past, but there's also a quick release mechanism for quickly being able to change the bottom head without having to totally redo your snare wire situation. So that's a cool upgrade as well. So overall, it's more hardware than the first generation for sure, but of course the important question is, how does it sound? And just to get this out of the way, this is not a perfect apples to apples comparison because this is the new brass version and we're comparing it against the old beech version. Now, we only have the brass version right now, so we still think that it's an interesting comparison to make, and it may help you make a decision if you already had the first generation and maybe you were looking to get the brass one. So that's the comparison we're going to make, and then I'm also going to just take this drum itself through some different tunings and mess with the dampening systems as well. So a couple of quick impressions after actually playing the drum. The first and second gen I thought were definitely similar, but I'm sure you heard that they both had kind of their own vibe. Now, the similarities are definitely there, I think largely in part due to the unique dimensions. The 5.75 by 13 is rather unusual, and Benny Greb will kind of tout this as a more versatile snare than you would expect out of a 13, and I would actually agree with that. I don't think I actually own a 13-inch snare myself, but this definitely has me reconsidering. If you think of a 13 as more of a one-trick pony, then I think this is definitely the contender that might change your mind. I was also thinking privately that I didn't know if I would prefer having both of the dampeners built in. I tend to use gaff tape and that sort of thing, but as I was playing, it was really nice and it was satisfying to be able to just grab for one or the other or both of them, especially when I was messing around quickly with different tunings, being able to just dial in some dampening. So that's something that may be important to you, maybe it isn't, but personally, I found it to be more useful than I was expecting it to be in the moment. So who is this drum for? Well, if you are a giant Benny Greb fan, then obviously this drum is for you. If you are in the market for a 13-inch snare, this should also be at the top of your list. It is more versatile than at least I had expected, and if you already have a couple of 14s maybe, and you're looking to add a different sound or a different dimension to your collection, then this is definitely one that you should consider. I don't think you can really go wrong either with the beech or the brass. That's more of a personal preference. Personally, I think I heard maybe the overtones spread a little bit more with the brass, and I heard them focus a little more with the beech, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. And if you're interested in this drum specifically or any other Sonor drums, then you can of course get them at West Coast Drum Shop in Bellevue, Washington. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.